Are we in focus? Do we have sound? Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today is primarily an eyeshadow ranking video. So I'm ranking every palette that I bought in 2024, and then I'm gonna, at the end, talk a little bit about just the end of the year. So without further ado, I need to start out by saying, first of all, I want to apologize because the quality of this video is not going to be what I had wanted it to be. So I filmed this video yesterday. I filmed for 2 hours. I went through every palette and I talked a little bit about each one. And, I filmed it like how I film most of my videos. So I definitely pause and there's spaces, but I have plenty of time to edit all of that out and make it, flow without saying too many times. Or, I just like to clean myself up a little bit in post-production. I don't have time. So I'm leaving tomorrow and I'm not going to be home again until January. So this is the last video that I'm able to film this year. And I have like 2 hours basically to edit it. And then I have to pack everything because we're having our house tinted. So I have to have all of my makeup out. So without rambling too much about that, I wanted to put that disclaimer in because I'm going to be revisiting this video in January. One of the things that I pride myself in is I do try to make my videos decent in editing. It takes a lot of time and I don't know what I'm doing, but I try to, cut out the junk. So I'm not wasting your time. I understand that you're taking time out of your day to watch this video. So I try to, make it as clean as I can on the back end. The biggest thing that I like to do in my videos is always show B-roll. So whether I'm doing an empties video where I'm talking about even sometimes sample products that I've tried, I always like to include a price and sometimes where I purchased something. With eyeshadow videos, I like to, anytime I talk about any eyeshadow, always show swatches up close in B-roll, as well as eye looks, because frankly, that's what I want when I'm watching a review. So that's what I like to do. And normally, like I've done ranking videos with eyeshadow palettes before. They're very time intensive because I'm talking about a lot of palettes. I have 32 palettes sitting here. So that's a lot of B-roll. I can't include any of it. I can't even talk that much about each palette. So this is going to be the abridged version. So just in case you're interested to hear what my ranking for 2024 would be, that's what this video is going to be. And then sometime in January, or it could be February too, but I'm going to do it again and include some of the palettes that I'm not going to be able to include today because they're just too new, and also include a lot of B-roll. So if you are interested in these palettes, you're considering purchasing them, obviously, I've already missed the Black Friday sale window. So next year, my plan is to get this out way earlier in December, so before those sale happens. Anyway, I'm not going to sit here and go on and on. I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end of the video just about other things that are coming up next year. But for now, without further ado, we are going to do the super sped up rapid fire version of my eyeshadow palette ranking video. I'm going to start by quickly mentioning the things that I'm leaving out. So I just received 2 ColourPop palettes. I got Smoke and Roses and Rock Candy. I have very low expectations. I'm an indie eyeshadow fan, so I don't expect these to impress me that much, but they were so cheap, they were so deeply discounted that I figured it was now or never. I've wanted to try Smoke and Roses for a long time, so that'll be included in the next ranking. I'm also not including my Patrick Ta matte palette because I don't use a matte palette on its own. This is only ever going to be a companion palette for me. So to me, it just didn't really make sense to rank it with palettes that I try to use as capsules. A lot of them I don't. A lot of them I reach for a companion palette. But it could be this, it could be Viseart, it could be Natasha Denona. I'm not that picky. I like this, it's fine, but you know, I didn't really find a place in this ranking where that made sense. I'm also not going to be including my singles. I'm leaving my singles out just because I didn't get that many this year, and I just like with the matte palette, it's a companion palette, so I don't really feel like I have a good place to put that. The final palette that I'm leaving out is the Galactic Visitor from Singe Beauty. I've only used this twice, so I don't feel comfortable putting this in a ranking yet. I'm definitely going to be doing a short review of this on Instagram within the next day or so. So tune in on Instagram, definitely follow me over there because that's much more like up to date with what's going on, and especially my Instagram stories. I put a lot of stuff on there. So I'll be talking about that. I do have thoughts. They're a little bit mixed. I used it today. I like my eye look better today. The mattes reminded me a little bit of Adept mattes, which are not my favorite. They're a little bit tougher to blend. The lighter shades actually blended fine. It was the deeper shades that were a little bit stampy, which is fine for like just concentrated color, but I like to blend. I like, you know, I do a lot of blending in my looks, so didn't love that. The shimmers are nice though, so it's too soon. You know, I don't want to say it. I like it. You know, I definitely like the color story. I like the gradient. There's a lot of things going for this palette. I think it's going to be my favorite of 2024. Well, yeah, I got it this year. No, I don't, but I do think it's going to rank high. So I look forward to adding this to the ranking in my next version of this, along with a review. I do also want to do a review of this. Okay, so that out of the way, I think quickly, so I don't have to do it for each palette, I want to talk a little bit about formula. So the way I'm doing this ranking is it's a mix of color story and formula. There are definitely, you know, I wouldn't say one matters to me more than the other, because if I have the best formula in the world, but it's a color story I don't like, that's not a useful palette, and vice versa. You know, it's like it's a combination of both, and everybody's going to feel a little bit differently about how that works out for them. So just so that I don't have to keep repeating, because I have a lot of repeat brands here, the Nomad formula, I think it's just okay. It's not great, and it's not created equally. So their older palettes, like trash. I really don't recommend any of them. Their newer palettes are way better. I think ever since Keys came out, the Keys Beachy palette came out, I've liked the formula since then. It's still not all created equally, or I guess New Zealand came before that. So New Zealand is my number one because the formula in that is definitely the best. The mattes are pretty uncomplaining. I don't really have anything bad to say about the mattes. The duochrome shimmers, however, that's their best formula. That's their best formula, hands down. That's why New Zealand is the best, because I think all of the shimmers are duochromes or multichromes. Their regular shimmer formula is not my favorite. It's a little bit thick, and I'm okay with thick. Like Adept has a thick shimmer formula, but it's high payoff. So it's thick, but impactful. The Nomad shimmer formula, in my opinion, is thick but dull. So it's like there's no trade-off. There's nothing that makes it worth it. I don't love how it looks on my eyes. So a lot of the palettes, like the Chicago palette, ranks a little bit higher because it has some duochromes that are a better formula. You know, so that's basically, I guess, all of that to say Nomad's never going to be at the tippy top of my list. The reason I keep buying from them is I do enjoy their color stories. Their color stories get me to think creatively, and I actually really appreciate that because I can get stuck in a rut, and having a palette like that that makes me come up with unique color combinations, it's fun for me. So I know that I'm still going to keep buying from them, even though I'm never really going to be like ecstatic about the formula. It's good enough that I'm, you know, if that makes sense. And it's, you know, they're not horrible. Like they're all usable. So wanted to get that out of the way. I also wanted to quickly say I'm not a fan of the Adept formula. I wish that I was, but I find it annoying to work with. And because of that, I don't reach for the palettes. So I have a bunch of palettes here that actually have fantastic color stories. Some of the prettiest color stories that I could imagine. But if enough of the shades are too goopy, I'm just not going to want to work with them. Like if they're, I don't know, it's like I can dupe most of what I have from Adept with shadows that are just easier for me to work with. So, but that's another brand where all the shimmers are not the same. Like in Flying Fiddles, some of the shimmer shades are super that goopy, icky formula, but some of them are super thin and easy to work with and a lot more just, all around beautiful. So it's Adept is just kind of a hit or miss brand for me. None of their palettes, unless they're, and I think their formula has improved and, it's fine, it's workable, but I'm never going to rank them that high. So a lot of these palettes, they rank where they are because either the color story or it has more of a good formula. I will mention that, but I'm not going to go on at length because I would be repeating myself too many times. So I wanted to get that out of the way. I'm trying to think if any other formulas are really, I don't think so. Like I have two Blend Bunny palettes, but I'll talk about those individually. Unearthly, I guess, is one that I can say that from a formula point of view, solid. Solid across the board, really like it. The shimmers are not as impactful as like a Glaminatrix, but they're really good. That's one of the few brands where I know if I look at a color story, I don't have to think twice about it because I can trust the formula. Like the formula is going to be really good. Sorcerer's Smoke is my favorite palette from them, and they do have a shimmer, a champagne shimmer in that palette that stands heads and shoulders above the other shimmers from them. That to me is their most standout formula, not just color story, but formula. Other than that, it's like a solid good. Like it's not blowing me away, but I can trust it. So, um, okay, so I think I'm done. So now I'll just say I'm going to start with my least favorite and work my way up to my most favorite, and that's going to be my favorite palette of 2024. So to kick things off, we are going to start with my least favorite palette of 2024, and that award goes to the Nomad Safari palette. This is an adorable palette. I mean, I'm happy to look at it. The embossing is so cute, but the shimmers, they stink. Formula, not good. So that's dead last. Second to last is the Nomad Air. This is a better formula, but I don't like these colors on me, and you might not really understand that because it's so neutral and you would think it's so easygoing, but I don't know what to say other than every time I've used this, I've been disappointed with how my eyes look, so I'm never going to reach for this. I have so many pretty neutral palettes. Next is going to be La Cienega. I got this from Adept during a sale. This is just, the shimmer formula is not my favorite, and there's no looks in here that I ever wanted to repeat. So that's that on that. Then I have Adept Rainbow Raider. This is interesting. This gets points for being interesting, but at the end of the day, I have no reason to really ever pull that out. If I need colorful stories or colorful shimmers, I have better formulas. So next, I have Nomad Haunted Europe. This is unfortunate because this is adorable, but the shimmers really, really are disappointing. And as much as the mattes are all right, they're not good enough for me to ever really want to pick this up. Then I have Nomad, the Monteverde palette. This gets points for being the best neon palette I have ever used. Again, the shimmers basically unusable in this, but if I ever need a neon pink or a neon purple, I will reach for this. And honestly, I'm a Halloween girly, so I have used this. You know, it's come in clutch during very specific like costume. I'm not, this isn't 1985, so I'm not doing hot pink on a regular basis or neon blue, but I'm glad that I have it for those very specific reasons. I would only ever buy it on sale though. Then I have Nomad Ghost Town, and the reason this is as low as it is a formula. This formula kind of went to hell on me. Like, it started out okay, but the shimmers got so goopy that I have to actually thin them out between my fingers before I even can get them on my eyelid. So I don't know that everyone's had that issue with this formula, but warning, just in case. I wouldn't pay top dollar for it. After that, I'm gonna put the Nomad Ireland palette. This is pretty, but you have to really like green. I don't like green necessarily that much, but I'm Irish, so I don't regret buying it, but it is what it is. Like, I don't think I would buy it again. After that, I have my Adept Flying Fiddles. This is a stunning color story. I am glad that I have this. I don't reach for it because it just takes a few extra minutes. It's not the easiest to work with because it's Adept Cosmetics, but it is a stunning color story, and I don't regret buying it. I could say the same exact thing about the Adept Heather Austin palette. This is a color story I like less, but the formula is good. I think as far as my Adept palettes go, these two are my most used, but still never going to be my favorite. It's just, I'm going to reach for Unearthly instead, or Cleona, or, something that is just easier to work with. Speaking of Unearthly, next we'll have my Charmer palette. I think I ranked this above the Adept simply because it's easier to use, but this is a color story issue for me. I get like one look out of this, and I don't really like any of the other looks. I don't really like the shimmer colors. They're just not my colors, so I would definitely never buy this again, even though it's a solid formula. The same could go for Fall Magic. Fall Magic is a lot more usable than Charmer. But some of the shimmers are just too similar. So it lacks versatility, and the ways that it can be versatile, like the yellow and green, it's just not flattering on my skin tone. So I think that's a skin tone thing. But yeah, I don't recommend this one. After that, I have my Adept Ketracel White palette. I actually love this for the rainbow shimmers. Every year I do rainbow looks, and they're stunning. It's not super easy to get the shades to come out individually with the little stripes being so thin, but it's a stunning look, and the highlighters are fun. This is a fun palette. This is probably my favorite Adept palette, if I'm being honest, because it is so unique and so much fun. After that, I have the Glaminatrix Nocturnal palette. This is a color story thing for me. It's not my favorite color story. I want to be more fun, but I'm not this fun. Like, I can do a neutral look with this, but it's mostly the mattes. I'm not the biggest fan of the mattes in here. So if I do ever reach for this, I'm only reaching for it with a companion, a natural or a neutral palette as a companion to set up my look. Next, I have the Nomad Chicago palette. This is a really pretty color story, but if I'm honest, there's only one look that I like. It's the purple mattes with the green duochrome. Any of the other looks I can do with other palettes and formulas that I prefer. So as much as I love the duochrome green to purple, like the center green that has a purple shift, that's stunning. I don't know that it's really worth having the whole palette, but that one look I like a lot, so I don't regret it. I feel similarly to the Nomad Fuji palette. So this one, I only really I like the blue and pink look that I get from this, but red and yellow, not my best colors. You know, they don't look great on me. So, you know, as much as I like the whole that one look, is a whole palette worth the one look? No, but I leave this out in the fall on top of my dresser because it's so pretty. Nomad, I'm not gonna lie, a big part of what gets me is the fantasy of it all, and their packaging is top notch. So I'm not gonna, you know, lie to myself. I bought this because of the packaging, but you know, I'm not mad that I have it. It's just not my favorite. Next, I'm going to put my Blend Buddy Machina. I got this palette for $15. I do not like the shades, the color story. I think the reason this was $15 is because most people don't. When I look at this palette, genuinely, I look at the fact that Cyborg is such a cool color. It looks like it's glowing and like it's glowing. It's, I don't know if you can see. I'll you know, I have videos where I talk about this with swatches. It's on my Instagram. But Cyborg is so pretty. I look at this palette as I paid $15 for a single, and I don't regret it because that is such a cool shade. The formula is fine. It's just nothing is that impressive. I've done other looks and I'm always disappointed. So that's why I know that I really only ever want Cyborg. All right, after that, we have Nomad, the Keys palette. When I first saw this palette, I didn't think I would like it because the color story is super funky when you see it like this. But when I saw it laid out differently, I realized how much prettier it actually is. And I've done some of my favorite looks for summertime with this palette. Absolutely love this palette. It blew my mind because I expected to hate it, actually. And it might actually be my favorite. No, it's my second, yeah, it's my second favorite Nomad palette. So it's fun. I know they discontinue some of these. I would say if you ever miss a Nomad palette, don't worry. Like, it's fine. It's not that great. The only one that I would say go out of your way for is the New Zealand palette. Next, we have Unearthly Spring Magic. This is stunning. You know, I really like this palette. I use it so much less than I expected to, though. And I think it's because I don't think of it that often. I used it a lot when I first got it, and then I just dropped off, and I'm not really sure why, other than I guess it's a color story thing. It doesn't really excite me, and I can get my favorite looks from this. I can do with other palettes. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer to why I don't really love this palette, but it's just okay. I'm not mad that I have it. I do use it, but I don't use it as much as I thought I would. So now we're turning a corner. Now we're getting into some of my favorites. So one of my favorite Nomad palette, New Zealand Stargazing. And, you know, it looks intimidating at first, but you can get a number of neutral looks. My favorite looks that I've ever done with this palette are the more neutral looks. So I really enjoy the lighter topper type shimmers for the inner corner, combined with, you know, the gray and the neutral brown. I don't know what to say other than even though my favorite is only one or two looks, I like them enough to really get excited about this palette. So my favorite Nomad palette. Then I put the Gourmand Girls Haunted palette. This is not the most useful color story to me, if I'm really being honest, but I got this on sale. It was deeply discounted. And I like the formula so much, and I thought the price was so reasonable that I needed to rank this as high as I did, because anytime, you know, even if this is just Halloween, if I'm only thinking about this in October, it's good enough and unique enough. Like this electric yellow shade, like I don't have anything else like that in my collection. And for me to say that, like that's a rarity these days. I have well over 100, maybe 150 eyeshadow palettes, so that's pretty good. So I was very happy with this. I maybe wouldn't want to pay full price for a color story that I'm not going to use that much, but if you see any of their stuff, I would say it's a safe formula. Feels similarly to Unearthly, except I think I maybe like, I don't know, maybe they're neck and neck. I don't know that I like one brand more than the other, but I feel similarly where I could just blindly pick up, knowing that I can trust the formula. Then I put my Harvest of Souls from Fantasy Cosmetica. If, you know, with more colors, they would rank even higher because this is an excellent formula. The mattes blend seamlessly. Some of the shimmers are thinner than some of the other ones, so it does have that, not all shimmers are the same formula thing, but the thicker ones are not nearly as thick as Adept, and I just find them easier to use. Like the shade Obsession here, that's a formula I prefer because it's so thin. That's a duochrome, but it's not a deal breaker. This was my first palette from them. I had only ever had singles, and I loved the singles, so I knew that I was going to like this. I definitely wanted to snap it up before they sold out, and yeah, because of the colors, I don't use it every day, but I'm always happy when I use it. I would repurchase that one if I lost it. Next, I'm going to put my Blend Bunny Divination Robert Welsh palette. This is fantastic. What I like so much about this is this row down here, especially the Champagne Shimmery Rune. It's not champagne, I guess it's more of a brown shimmer, but the Rune shimmer is like next level. It reminded me of Glaminatrix. Like, Glaminatrix to me is the most phenomenal shimmer formula on the planet. Nothing has touched that. It's neck and neck with how I feel about Pat McGrath's special shades. Like, those are more toppers, so they are different. So it's not comparable because one's a topper and one's a shimmer. But the way I feel about nothing coming close to the Pat McGrath special shades, I feel like nothing comes close to the Glaminatrix shimmer shades because they are so amped up, they are so next level, they are stunning. Rune held a candle to that. So yeah, so not all of them, but definitely that one, and that's the one I wanted it. Like, if I could pick one of these to be a standout, it would be that one. The only thing holding me back from reaching for this on a daily basis is just how big it is. So as a companion palette, this isn't gonna be my neutral palette that I reach for all the time. So when I reach for this, it's gonna be for a colorful look or a very specific neutral look. You know what I'm saying? I guess I don't use this to its fullest capacity because I'm not using it as a neutral palette and as a colorful shimmer palette. It's specific when I reach for it, but long way of saying I'm very happy that I have this. I would buy it again if I lost it. Then I am getting into the palettes I'm really excited about. The Unearthly Sorceress Smoke. This is my favorite palette from them. And it's mostly because the shade Sorceress, and no, it's Potent. I'm sorry. Yeah, the shade Potent. Okay, so Potent is the one, it has the brown base. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a brownie base, but there are silver reflex in it that just take it to the next level. The silver reflex almost look like they're floating above the base, and it just makes it like that next level impressive. I love it so much. The rest of it is kind of boring. You could dupe it, but that Potent shade, like, I could not dupe that. That is, yeah, it's stunning. So this is probably my favorite neutral palette next to Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. All right, next up, well, speaking of neutral palettes, for some reason I don't think of this as a neutral palette, but it totally is. So it's my Glaminatrix Barely Basic. This is another one that maybe it's just a little bit too big, and that's why I don't reach for it as much as I expected to. This fell below my favorite palette. My favorite shades from Glaminatrix for me are all singles. I reach for their singles constantly, almost daily. Like, if I'm really wanting to look at my best, it's Glaminatrix singles. But This is my second favorite palette from them. My first would be Rich Romantic because the pinks are so pretty. Not my favorite mattes, but I really love the pinks in that palette. This is number 2 because of, you know, the high impact shimmers. These mattes are really great for a neutral look, and the iridescent toppers are very pretty as well. So while this didn't shoot to number 1 like I expected it to, it's still really pretty, and I would still want to buy it again if I lost it. Okay, so now, all right, we're heading into the top 3. So that would be, the next one is Danessa Myricks, the Lightwork 6. I have several videos going on at length about this palette. It's stunning. It's beautiful. I love the packaging. I love everything about it. You know, I don't know what there is to say. It is for you or it's not. You know, if you like duochromes and multichromes and this is a color story that speaks to you, you would not be disappointed. The quality is top notch. So for a lot of people, it's just not for them, and that's as simple as that. But if you're in the market for it, you would not be disappointed. So then my top 2, actually, you know what, I realized I did include my Glaminatrix Rich Romantic. I didn't expect to because I got this technically in December of last year, but I didn't start using it until January, so that's why I like let myself put it where I did. But this is the shimmers, so especially charming, seductive, and, well, yeah, rich and captivating. The shimmers are beautiful. I don't have a favorite, and I only really get one look. The reason that this is not number 1 is because it's only a companion palette for me. I don't like the mattes. I don't really like the selection of the mattes. Some of them are fine, but as a one complete look, that's not how I use this best. I use this best if I set myself up with like a Patrick Ta or Natasha Denona, and then I just use the shimmers in this. So that's why, you know, the number 1 palette was going to be an all-in-one. But for a shimmer, you know, if you're into shimmers, you'll like this. It's a crowd pleaser. All right, so finally, we are at number 1. This was a shocker for me because I've never liked this brand that much. Or I've always liked the bigger palettes, but I've not ever been that impressed with the eyeshadow. So needless to say, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. But number 1 this year is going to go to Huda Beauty Icy Nude. So the reason, and genuinely, I only like really do one look with this, but VVS and Iced Out are so stunning that this is the palette that I can't put down. Now, it is also very new, so there is a chance that when I make this video again, I decide differently. Like, having had it longer, this might change and drop a few spots, and who knows, maybe Galactic Visitor or, you know, something could really cause an upset for this palette. It is not infallible, but at least at this point, this is the one I want to reach for. I do one look with it. I do the pinky gray, which are, that's why I Need a Nude is probably my most used palette of all times, because I Need a Nude has those pinky grays that I just find so flattering on my particular skin tone. You know, for the long, and it still is probably my top used palette, but this has a similar vibe. The difference, I guess, is that I prefer the Natasha Denona mattes, and I like the shimmers in this more. So VVS, even though it's chunky, it's such a pretty color, and it's so flattering on my skin tone. So, you know, like, this year for the holidays, what I'm definitely going to do is I'm definitely going to do what I always do, which is Natasha Denona I Need a Nude combined with my Glaminatrix singles. That is still top spot. You know, that's not in this video because it's not new, but number 2 is, I guess, you know, if I'm talking about eyeshadows of all time versus just 2024, this is number 1 in 2024. Number 1 of all time still goes to Natasha and Glaminatrix. So that is it. That is the conclusion of my sped up version of my eyeshadow palette ranking. So now I can put all of these palettes in a suitcase and put them outside so my house can be tented for termites. You know, it's been a rough couple months. I just had my face lasered off. So between that and then camera problems, like, holy cow, I had a bunch of videos that I had to scrap because they were out of focus. And then when I did this originally for 2.5 hours, I had no sound. So I almost cried. I didn't cry because I don't have time to cry, but it was disappointing to say the least. So I have, that the silver lining is that gives me more content. January and February tend to be a little bit slow in makeup before things heat up in the spring. So now I have plenty of content to film. So there'll be another version of this, and then I'm going to go on at length about everything that I had done to my skin. I originally had planned to do all of the laser. I had a CO2 laser. I had a video about this. I had a CO2 laser and I had microneedling with radio frequency, which honestly now some people are like freaking me out about how that might not be the best thing. But I had that and I had polynucleotides underneath my eyes. So it's going to take a few months for all of that to settle, but I plan on doing a play-by-play on how that went. And I plan on talking a little bit about skincare. This is still going to be primarily a makeup channel. But because I love skincare as much as I do and I spend so much money on it, I want to help people not waste their money. So I am going to definitely include a bunch of content just about that stuff in January. My experience with the place, and I think it's really, people don't talk enough about providers and how it's so important to find a provider that you gel with. That was definitely an issue with me. I don't feel like I gel with the place that I'm going to. They've just made enough comments about things that I'm like, science is really important to me, and I don't know. I'm hoping that, maybe I can trust them enough when it comes to Botox, but I don't know. I don't want to go on too much about that right now, just how I'm feeling. And, this past week, I was so sick. I don't know what happened, if I had a stomach bug or whatever. But between being sick, having camera problems, and then, just trying to pack up the entire house, we're going to be out of town for so long. It's a lot. And, I have like 24 hours to get all of this done. So I just really apologize for this video being way more chaotic than I meant it to be. But I am trying to be like, the chaos is festive. We're all feeling chaotic. So 'tis the season and whatnot. But, in all seriousness, this is also a rough time of year for most people. So I just wanted to sort of extend my thoughts. um, I really want people to know that this is a safe space, and you can always contact me on Instagram if you just need a place to vent. I care so much about the community that I'm trying to build here, and it's not lost on me that all of my problems are very, first world problems, and that this is, yeah, not only because of where I'm living and all of the privilege that comes along with just, feeling safe at night. There's a lot of people struggling, a lot of people missing loved ones, and people who have lost family because, let's face it, things are really tough right now in this country. And I don't for a second want to gloss over any of that. It's a lot, and it can be a lot. And I don't ever feel like I have the right thing to say, but I want to sort of open my door, so to speak. I don't know if there is a way to contact people other than through comments, but you can always DM me on Instagram. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not like an expert or great. Like my life certainly isn't together, but I'm a listening ear. So putting that out there and sending my love this time of year and always. And yeah, I guess this is going to be the chaotic finale of 2024. And I'm hoping that next year I know more about cameras, I know a little bit more about editing, and I'm just generally a little bit calmer so I can deliver more useful content and put something useful out into the world. And that's it. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day wherever you are. I love you so much, and I will see you next year. Bye-bye.